All right, welcome back. Welcome back to a new program. Yes, program number 44. 44, not bad. Now, we're going to start by reviewing. We're going to start by reviewing some points from class 43. We're going to start by going back and going over a few points, okay? Put on camera number 1. All right, point number 1 is to get around to doing something. Llegar finalmente a hacer algo que tienes planeado pero lo vas aplazando. Finally, I got around to calling him. Oh, it must have taken me 2 years, but I finally got around to doing it, okay? Yeah, and my wife told me, she asked me, said, darling, yes, darling, can you repair the socket in the bathroom? The electrical socket, el enchufe, in the bathroom, the plug. Bueno, plug, vale, the socket. Es que realmente es clavija y enchufe. Enchufe es socket, clavija es plug, pero decimos la misma palabra para los dos y vosotros también. El enchufe en la pared y el enchufe macho y hembra. Okay, the plug. Can you repair the plug in the bathroom? I said, sure, no problem. 2 days later, darling, yeah, what about the plug in the bathroom? Oh, God, I forgot. I'm sorry. I'll do it later this afternoon, after lunch. 2 days later, darling, yes. Do you remember the plug in the bathroom? Oh, my God. Okay, well, I'll do it right away. Listen, I need to go out and buy a newspaper when I come back. I'll do it for you. That evening, darling, did you repair the... No, I'm sorry. My God, finally, 7 days later, I repaired it. It took me 7 days to get around to repairing that silly plug in the bathroom. Yeah, I finally got around to doing it. Por fin, I finally got around to doing it. Some people never get around to doing anything in life. Yeah, some people just vegetate through life and never get around to doing anything productive or constructive, anything interesting or anything really worth doing, que vale la pena hacer. Because they never get around to doing it. They never get around to doing anything. They never get around to living life. Okay? So, but that's normal. Some people are very active. Other people are hyperactive. Other people just are a bit lazy. And they put things off. Yeah. Aplazan las cosas. Maybe mañana. And they put things off day after day. Day in and day out, day after day, and they never get around to doing anything with their life. I hope you get around to doing something with your life. I do, because every year I go somewhere. You remember? You remember in 2002, I went to Egypt. I went with my wife, and we spent 7 days in Egypt. In 2003, let me see if I can remember. I've forgotten. These are true stories, by the way. In 2003, we went to Scotland. No. Yes. I'm looking at my chuleta, my cheat sheet. Cheat is hacer trampa. Cheat, escrito cheat. Sheet is una hoja para hacer trampa. My cheat sheet. Yes, in 2003, we went to Scotland in the winter. We spent a week there, about 8 days. And we went with another couple. We flew to Liverpool. We rented a car and drove to York, Durham, Newcastle, and north to Scotland. It was nice. Even though the days were very short, we had a good time. Interesting experience. Interesting feeling to be in a country where it's dark. It's dark 19 hours or 18 hours a day. And you only have 5 or 6 hours of sunlight, of light. It gets dark very quickly. Yeah. By 4 o'clock, it's completely dark. It's completely dark by 4 o'clock. Para las 4 ya oscuridad total. And it works on your brain in a funny way. Because you can get up, for example, at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's dark outside. But by 9 or 9:30, it's starting to get light. By 10 o'clock, it's light, completely light, all right? And then you're doing things, and the sun sets around 3:30, and it's totally dark. It's completely dark at 4. Now, you got up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's completely at night. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, you feel it's time to go to bed, and you're sleepy. But it's only 8 o'clock. It's not midnight. But it's so the darkness, a certain period, several hours of darkness begins to work on your brain, on your psyche, and you begin to feel. That's what happened in Scotland. That's what happened. Eso es lo que ocurrió. That's what happened in Scotland. And we went there in 2003. In 2004, I think we went to Sicily. Yes. Yeah, in 2004 we went to Sicily and spent about 9 days in Sicily, and it was nice. My wife and I flew. We flew to Palermo by way of Florence. Strange flight. Madrid, Florence, Palermo. And we rented a car in Palermo. Difficult. To get from the terminal to the rental car area of the airport was like going from Madrid to Sevilla. It was really tough. But we rented the car and we spent 9 days traveling around the island, and I recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's a very nice trip. A lot of history. Greek history, Roman history, Phoenician history, Carthaginian history, Arab history, Norman history. The Normans controlled Sicily for 200 years. Interesting. Spanish history. The Spanish were there. Aragonese, not Spanish. Aragonese history. Quite interesting. And Spanish history too. Quite interesting. The island of Sicily. A lot of very nice ruins. We went there in 2004. In 2005, we went to Marrakesh. Very interesting city. Big, interesting, and you have the Atlas Mountains in the distance. It's very nice. And in the winter, it's very nice because you have mild weather. Clima templado. Not too hot, not very cold, and very nice. And we stayed in a very nice hotel called the Mamunia and enjoyed it. And I recommend it. And we went there in 2005. In 2006, where did we go? Let me look. We went to Tuscany. Cold. In the middle of the winter, I have never been so cold in my life. I was freezing cold. And last year we went to Andalusia, the year before last, and then last year we went to Texas. This year, I don't know where. All right. I'll be back in a few minutes after our next teacher to continue.
Thank you very much, Richard. And welcome to Vaughan Inglés 4.0. That's right, you have to say it like that. Ya te he dicho, you have to say it like that. All right, well, my name is Alberto Alonso, but more importantly, I'm here with Diana. Hello, Diana, how are you?
Hi, Alberto, how are you?
Good. Well, I want you to say it. Can you say it like me? Can you say Vaughan Inglés 4.0? Say it. Go ahead, say it to the camera.
Vaughan Inglés 4.0.
A little more. Give me a little more like movie trailer.
Vaughan Inglés 4.0.
What do you think? Do we give her 5 points for that?
10 points, Alberto.
10 points.
Yes,
Okay, dame. Si no haces una vez más, pero todo. Vaughan Inglés 4.0. I'll give you 10 points.
Vaughan Inglés 4.0.
10 points. That was good. Con feeling. A little bit of feeling in there, that's all. All right, well, are you ready to learn some things today?
Yes, I am.
Ask me what we're going to do today.
What are we going to do today?
What do you want to know?
I want to know what we are going to do today.
Crack. 5 points. Take 5 points. Okay, today we're going to review. Okay? Ask me if I think it's important to review.
Is it important to review?
Ask me if I think.
And do you think it's important to review?
Yes, I think it's very important to review. Do you think it's important to review?
Yes, I think it's important to review.
Absolutely. Because if not, we're getting older and older and we can't remember things as much as we did when we were children. So if you don't review it, like I told students, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
O sea, si tienes una palabra aquí que has aprendido hace 5 años y no la has soltado ni una vez, pues ahí se queda. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the idea is to try and use the different vocabulary. Okay, well, if I tell you, I'll get around to it, ¿qué significa eso? ¿Lo has oído alguna vez? I'll get around to it tomorrow.
Encontrar un hueco para hacerlo.
Sí, encontrar un hueco. Por ejemplo, aquí se dice, ¿cuándo llegarás a hacer algo? Mm-hmm. When will you get around to it? Sí, pero es encontrar un hueco. I remember my mother would say, Alberto, clean your room. Say, oh, Mom, I'll get around to it later. ¿Sabes? Buscaré un hueco, llegaré a hacerlo, to get around to it, right? Now, do you have anything on your list of things that you have to get around to?
Yes, I have to get around to studying.
To studying, eso es, y muy importante. To get around to, aunque es un to, no es infinitivo, usamos el gerundio. So, so you have to get around to studying.
Yes.
So why are you, how do you say aplazando?
I'm postponing.
Postponing it, o hay algo más, te doy 5 puntos, pero hay otra, I'm putting it off.
Okay.
To put off es aplazar. So why are you putting it off?
Because it's difficult.
I'm putting
to
it
start.
off, porque así practicas.
Okay.
¿Ves?
I'm putting
Porque,
it off.
hombre, sí, me interesa, pero quiero que uses el vocabulario también.
Okay. I'm putting it off because it's difficult to start. Just the
Right.
first day is difficult.
I know, to get started. But you'll get around to it.
Yes, I'm.
Okay,
yeah.
ask me if I have anything I have to get around to.
Do you have anything that you have to get around to?
Yeah, I have a list. I always have a list of things I have to get around to doing. And I haven't done them yet. So my list is just, how do you say, amontonando, haciéndose más largo? My things are just piling up.
Piling up.
How do you say aplazar?
To put off.
5 points. All right. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at some more stuff. How do you say cuenta corriente?
Cash account.
A checking account.
Checking
We call it a
account.
checking account. La de donde sacas el dinero para pagar los gastos. Y eso. A checking account. I think you say cuenta corriente, or
Sí.
you also say nómina, right? Where your money goes every month, and that's
Yes.
where you do your transactions, right? Tus movimientos, your transactions. Okay, good. Well, I want to also look at some years, algunos años. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a year. I'm going to tell you a sentence, and then I'm going to ask you a question, so you repeat that year.
Okay.
Okay? I went to Africa in 2004. When did I go to Africa?
You went to Africa in 2004.
Sure, I was born in 1977. When was I born?
You were born in 1977.
That's very good, okay. I was in Greece in 1982. When was I in Greece?
You were in Greece in 1982.
Okay, I wasn't born yet in 1899. Where was I in 1899?
You weren't born yet in
In 1899.
1899.
So one more time, no,
You weren't born yet in 1899.
Yeah, you weren't born yet in 1899. Okay, I was living in New York in 1992. When was I living in New York?
You were living in New York in 1992.
I lived in Hollywood in 2001. When did I live in Hollywood?
You lived in Hollywood in 2001.
Okay, now what is the general rule then with the years? There's a rule, hay una regla. Solo una. Pretty simple. Okay, a partir de 2000 se dice el año entero, se dice
Okay.
como un número entero. 2001, 2002, 2003, etc. Right? But when it comes before 2000, we split it into 2 parts.
Okay.
19, 22, 18, 65. Que ya lo estabas haciendo
Yes.
bien, pero es para que veas lo que pasó, porque lo repetías. Oh, no te di puntos. I didn't even give you any
Yeah,
points.
It's true, yes, Alberto. What's happening with you?
All right. How many points do you want? A ver lo que me va a pedir. How many points?
50. 50.
Maria, should I give her 50 points?
Yes, of course.
Maria
This is
thinks
fair,
50 is a
fair.
lot. Let's negotiate. Let's say 40.
Okay.
Maria gave me 40's okay? Do you agree? ¿Estás de acuerdo? Maria agrees. Okay, 40 points for that. Okay. I was living in Guam.
Okay.
Never. I was living in Guam in 1822. When was I living in Guam?
You were living in Guam in 1882. 92.
22.
22.
No te doy puntos para la última. Okay, well, keep practicing. The idea is to keep studying. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You know, I prefer coffee to tea. I prefer oranges to apples. I prefer pears to peaches. Melocotones, peaches. I prefer French to German. I'll talk more about my preferences in camera number 1. Let's go. Okay? Ahora, preferencia pura. No empleo aquí verbos. I prefer water to Coke, or Pepsi in class. I prefer Coke to Pepsi, although I'm a shareholder in Pepsi, PepsiCo. I should prefer Pepsi to Coke. but I don't. Most people prefer Pepsi to Coke in blind tests. Tests a ciegas, in which you don't know what you're drinking. You try one, you try the other. And about 70% of the people choose Pepsi. If they know the brands, they choose Coke. And so it's a strange psychological influence, simply the name Coke. All right? But I prefer Coke, just a little, to Pepsi. He dicho prefirió la Coca-Cola a la Pepsi-Cola. But I like both, by the way. También puedo decir over. I prefer Coke over Pepsi. All right? I prefer French over German. All right? I prefer coffee over tea. All right? I prefer Maria over Juan Luis as a floor manager. I prefer Maria to Juan Luis. Un purista diría tú. Prefiero el café. Yo no sé, prefiero el café al té. Okay? I think it's the same in Spanish. I prefer coffee to tea. I prefer Coke to Pepsi. I prefer water to Coke. I prefer Maria to Juan Luis. Okay? Si quiero añadir un verbo, prefiero trabajar con María que trabajar con Juan Luis. Puedo optar por infinitivo o por gerundio. I prefer working with Maria to working with Juan Luis. I prefer drinking water to drinking más gerundio. I prefer water to drinking Coke. Now I prefer drinking Coke to drinking Pepsi. And I prefer learning French to learning German, okay? I would prefer to learn German si yo hago how do you say, the conditional. Preferiría aprender francés, aprender alemán. I would prefer to learn. Aquí, cuando usas el condicional, obligado, infinitivo, no gerundio. I would prefer to learn French. If I had to choose, si tuviera que elegir, if I had to choose, I would prefer to learn French than to learn German. I would prefer to learn French than to learn German. If I were forced to drink a cola in this class, I would prefer to drink Coke than to drink Pepsi. Yeah. Okay. Ahora bien, curioso, si alguien viene con los dos, dice, oye Richard, ¿cuál? Mira, ¿quieres tomar algo? Lo que quieras, ¿cuál? Toma un poco de Pepsi. I said, oh, no thanks, Maria. I'd rather have a Coke. I'd rather have Coke. I would rather have. Una preferencia puntual cuando se te ofrece algo, se dice rather, I'd rather. O simplemente expresando una preferencia puntual o curiosa. I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. Yes, I would. If I could, I really would. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Paul Simon. Yes, I would. If I could, I really would. Preferiría ser martillo que clavo. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Okay, preferiría ser gorrión a ser snail, caracol. I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. That's called El Condor Pasa, is the name of the song by Paul Simon and Garfunkel. It's Simon and Garfunkel. It's a very famous song. It's not my favorite. I prefer other songs to that one. But if I had to choose a song by Simon and Garfunkel for this class, I'd rather choose that one. Okay? Now, if I had to choose between £1 million and $1 million, if you said to me, Richard, what would you like? I'll offer you $1 million of anything, pounds or dollars. Which do you prefer? El que habla dice, which do you prefer? También podría decir, which would you rather have? Pero eso parece más una pregunta hipotética. En caso de que te ofrecieran, which would you prefer? Pero sí puedo responder, I'd rather, pensándolo bien, on second thought, well, thinking about it, I'd rather have £1 million than $1 million. Yeah. I would prefer to have, parece casi que me lo ofrece de verdad. I would prefer, oh, thank you, Mr. Jones. What was your offer? 1 million units of a currency. pounds, dollars, and euros. I can have either £1 million or $1 million or 1 million euros. And you're giving me that. Are you really offering that? Yeah. Well, listen, in this case, I would prefer, porque es de verdad, o sea, yo ya voy muy en serio, preferiría que usted me diera 1 millón de libras porque vale más. I would prefer that you give me £1 million because it's worth more than 1 million euros or $1 million, because the sterling pound is worth more than the euro or the dollar. So I would prefer. Ahora, si lo pone hipotético, Richard, de tener que elegir, ¿cuál preferiría? Which would you prefer? Oh, I'd rather have £1 million, of course. And why would you rather have £1 million? Well, because clearly 1 million sterling pound is worth more. It's worth more than 1 million euros and $1 million, I think. The pound has been going down and the euro going up, so maybe they're at parity now. I don't know, or maybe the euro's worth more. Who knows? What would you rather have? What would you prefer? I would prefer, if you're offering me coffee and tea, well, I would prefer tea. I would prefer coffee, please. Okay. Pero si me trae un té, no, excuse me, I'd rather have a coffee if you don't mind. I would rather have a coffee if you don't mind. Ante la duda, prefer, porque siempre es correcto. Pero decimos más I'd rather cuando realmente quiero, oye, mira, si no te importa, preferiría, es una preferencia puntual. Tea? Maria, is this tea? Oh, listen, if there's coffee upstairs, I'd rather have a coffee, si no te importa. I'd rather have a coffee if you don't mind, because tea is fine, but tea is not my cup of tea. O sea, no me fascina el té. O sea, el inglés no es mi taza de té, el inglés no me fascina. And tea isn't my cup of tea, Maria. So I'd rather have a coffee. But I have to say goodbye now, at least for a few minutes. And I'll be back, all right, after the advertising. Okay, my preferences. I prefer, I don't know. It's difficult for preference concerning women because I like short women, I like tall women, and I like normal women. So I don't prefer tall women to short women, and I don't prefer short women to tall women. Okay, all of them are very attractive, so I don't have a preference. Democratic or Republican and American? Do I prefer the Republicans to the Democrats, or do I prefer the Democrats to the Republicans? To tell you the truth, it depends on the individual politician. In the United States, the parties are different from here. Here the parties are very closed and very disciplined, con listas cerradas, with closed lists. It's completely different in the States. It depends on the person. It depends on the candidate. Although I usually agree economically with the Republicans, I don't always vote Republican. All right. I'll be back after this next teacher to continue.
Thank you, Richard. Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah, and I'm here again with all of you to practice and repeat what you've just learned from Richard. So let's get started. But first, what do? I always introduce my students, and I have a really nice student today. Her name is Diana. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Hannah, how are you?
Great. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, great. So are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to practice the verb to prefer, right? Preferir. Okay, first we're going to add it with a noun, sustantivo, and then we'll add it to a verb. Okay, so here we go. Do you like tea?
I prefer coffee.
Great, very good. I prefer coffee. Okay, do you like beef?
I prefer chicken.
Good, repeat, chicken.
Chicken.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I prefer chicken. Me too, I prefer chicken. It's healthier. Okay, does your mother like cheese?
She prefers ham.
Very good. She prefers ham. Remember, ham, not jam. What's jam? Jam is?
Mermelada.
Okay, exactly. So we don't want to say mermelada, we want ham, jamón. Okay, next. Ask me if I like fruit.
Do you like fruit?
I prefer vegetables. Do you like fruit?
I prefer vegetables too.
Okay, good. Vegetables or vegetables?
Vegetables.
Perfect. Bien, eso es. So, instead of vegetables, okay, hay muchas sílabas ahí. So, cortamos. We take out one syllable en medio ahí. We say vegetables. Vegetables. Repeat.
Vegetables.
Perfect. Great. So vegetables. Okay. Do you like orange juice?
I prefer Coke.
Okay, good. I prefer Coke. Does your brother like apples?
He prefers oranges.
Very good. He prefers oranges. Remember the third person singular. Please don't forget that S. He prefers oranges. Do you like movies?
I prefer plays. Yeah?
Books?
Books. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Books or comics or
Yeah,
okay,
okay.
great. So you prefer books. Okay, very good. Ask me if I like English.
Do you like English?
I prefer Spanish.
Okay.
Yes, ole. Okay. Spanish has been my passion since I was 13 or 14 years old, learning Spanish in California, so I prefer Spanish. Okay. Does he like tennis?
He prefers football.
Very good. He prefers football. Very good. So now let's change the format a little bit. So before we did a lot of examples using prefer plus a noun, sustantivo. Now let's use prefer plus gerundio, plus ing verb or activity. Here we go. Do you like watching tennis?
I prefer watching football.
Okay, great. And it's true. We have a football fanatic right here. You love football. I know you do. Okay, do you like making paella?
I prefer making omelets.
Very good. I prefer making omelets. So remember, we're using the gerundio, the gerund, after the verb to prefer. So I prefer making gazpacho. I prefer making cocido. I prefer making Spanish omelets. Okay, do you like driving?
I prefer walking.
Very good. Okay, I prefer walking. So let me hear walking again.
Walking.
Perfect. Excellent. So remember walk. Walk, la L, the L is silent. Okay, remember we don't say walk. Nunca. No existe walk. Walk? No. Qué horror. So we want to say walk. Walk. So walking. I prefer walking. I prefer taking the metro. I prefer taking the bus. Ask me if I like eating fruit.
Do you like eating fruit?
I prefer eating chocolate.
Okay.
Yes, chocolate. Much better than fruit, don't you think? Okay, does he like traveling?
He prefers staying at home.
Okay, very good. He prefers staying at home. Okay. Do you like drinking beer?
I prefer drinking rum.
Okay, perfect. Great. Oh, sure. Forget the beer. Yeah, I prefer rum. Okay. So I prefer drinking rum. I prefer drinking water. I drink water and only water because I have zero tolerance for alcohol. And it's really unfortunate because here in Spain, we have a lot of really wonderful wines, very delicious wines. But unfortunately, I have little to no tolerance for alcohol. My body just rejects it, unfortunately. Do they like gardening?
They prefer, I don't know.
Bird watching.
Okay.
Okay.
They prefer TV watching.
Oh, bird watching.
Bird watching.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. Okay, so instead of gardening, they prefer bird watching. Another very calming hobby, right? People say gardening is a good hobby to have if you want to relax or calm yourself. And I've heard that bird watching is also a very nice hobby. Okay, ask me if I like walking.
Do you like walking?
I prefer jogging. I prefer jogging, although walking is a great exercise. I prefer jogging. Okay, does she like sailing?
She prefers driving.
Okay, very good. She prefers driving. She prefers walking. She prefers jogging. Okay, she prefers diving, right? Bucear is to dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so now also this is important to note. Here we're using to prefer, right? But we're using to prefer when we talk about very general preferences, okay? Preferencias muy generales. Because in Spanish, we use the verb preferir en muchos contextos, but in inglés, menos. So in English, we use the verb to prefer in fewer contexts than we do in Spanish, okay? So keep that in mind. So again, let's look at more examples. So let's repeat a few. So do you like tea?
I prefer coffee.
Do you like chocolate?
I prefer fruit.
Perfect. Do you like vegetables?
I prefer paella.
Okay,
No,
good.
paella.
Good. I prefer paella. Actually, in English, we say paella too.
Okay.
In English. And it's funny, Spanish people say paella when they want to say paella in English, and I say, but Americans, I think we say paella too. Yeah. But thank you for the, the attempt to make it easier for non-Spanish speakers. Okay, do you like movies?
I prefer books.
Good. Do you like tennis?
I prefer football.
Great. Does he like English?
He prefers Spanish.
Very good. Do you like watching tennis?
I prefer watching football.
Great. Do you like making gazpacho?
I prefer making paella.
Good. Do you like driving?
I prefer sailing.
Good. Ask me if I like eating fruit.
Do you like eating fruit?
Good. Repeat again.
Do you like eating fruit?
Okay, I prefer eating chocolate. Yes, I think most women prefer eating chocolate than fruit, although we know we should eat fruit instead of chocolate. Okay, well, great job, Diana. Thank you for being here, and thank you at home for following our class, and keep practicing, please, and I'll see you next time. Back to Richard. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. Camera one. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would, etc. If I could. Preferiría hacerlo si pudiera. I would rather. Si me das a elegir, preferiría ser rico que pobre. I'd rather be rich than poor. Ahora, si es una preferencia real, si alguien viene, si Dios baja de Richard, you have the choice between being rich or poor. What do you prefer? Well, Lord, if you don't mind, I prefer to be rich. Okay? Yeah. No, but Richard, wouldn't you like to be poor? No, I would prefer to be rich. Think about it, Richard. Think about life being poor. You don't have aspirations. You don't have stress. It's an easy. God, I'm sorry, Lord, but I'd rather be rich, than poor. Okay. Now, Maria asked me a few seconds ago. She said, "Richard, do you prefer to sit up like this, or to sit back like this?" And I said, I would prefer to sit. Is it okay to sit like this? And she said, well, no, sit up. I said, well, really, I'd rather sit back. It's more comfortable than sitting up. But she said, no. She said, I'd rather you sit up if you don't mind. Well, I'd rather sit back like this if you don't mind. So we had a bit of a disagreement. I said, but now I agree. It's better for me to sit up, to pay more attention, and not to sit back like this and talk to you in a relaxed way. But it depends on what I'm teaching. If I'm teaching something in which a relaxed mood, un estado de ánimo relajado, is more effective, then in those cases, I would rather sit back than sit up. All right, good. Now, if somebody offers you something, all right, and you say, well, would you like a cup of tea? He said, no, I'd rather have coffee. When you say something, no, preferiría más bien, si no te importa, I would rather, okay? I would rather. Would you like to give a speech after the luncheon today? Really, I'd rather not. If you don't mind, I would rather not. I'd rather not if you don't mind. No me preferiría que no, si no te importa. Dar un discurso, pronunciar un discurso después de la comida. No, I'd rather not. Please. I'm not a good public speaker, and if you don't mind, I'd rather not. Okay? There's a very famous book, a novel, by Herman Melville called Bartlesby the Scrivener. Most people in Spain don't know that book, and many people in the world don't know. It's not famous. It's famous, but it's not as famous as the classic book written by Herman Melville called Moby Dick. the story of the white whale, La Ballena Blanca. The white whale, the white whale. But he wrote another book, a smaller novel called Bartlesby the Scrivener, and it's a masterpiece. For me, it's better than Moby Dick. And it's a strange story. It's a story about a scrivener, a person who's scribidor, in the 19th century to copy things. And the boss often, from time to time, came up to Bartlesby and says, Bartlesby, can you help me check these papers? And Bartlesby said, I would really rather not, thank you. And the boss was shocked. And the boss said, hey, I'm the owner of this place. Please, Bartlesby, will you help me check these documents? And Bartlesby always said, well, Mr. Evans, I would really rather not. And it was this way always. And the boss didn't know what to do with Bartlesby. He was a good scrivener, copying documents, because in those times they didn't have photocopy machines. You couldn't photocopy documents, so people had to copy them to make duplicates and triplicates. Copying, human power to make copies. And he always said, I'd really rather not, if you don't mind. And his life was that. He just didn't want to do anything except copy. That's the only thing he wanted to do. It was a strange story, a bit like a Kafkaesque story, okay? But I would really rather not. You know, a few minutes ago, before I came back, when the other teacher was teaching in the next room to you, the producer of this program came down the stairs and came up to me and he said, Richard, listen, we would like you to join us on our Tertulia show, on this show. We're in the big studio next door. It starts at 10 o'clock. Would you like to join us and be one of our guests? And I said, well, Jaime, thanks a lot, but I'd really rather not. I'd really rather not go. I'd rather not take part in that. He said, well, why wouldn't you? What's the problem? No, I just don't feel, I would rather not be a part of the Tertulia. I said, well, why not? Well, because I'm an English teacher. I'm not a politician. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an opinion giver. And so I'd rather not take part in that show. And finally, he insisted, said, come on, we want you there. I said, look, I'd rather not. Do you mind? I'd rather not join the program. Okay? Now, to use rather in a different way, there was a commercial on television in los años 60. In the 60s in the States, there was a famous commercial about a tranquilizer, un tranquilizante, calmante. And it showed a mother and her daughter. The daughter was 40 years old and the mother was 70 years old. And the daughter was cooking something in the kitchen and the mother wanted to help. Okay? And the mother was 70 years old or 75 years old, and it was clear that she was not a help. She was more of a hindrance. Entorpeciendo más que ayudando. Hindrance is the opposite of help. And finally, the daughter turned to her mother and took the lid, la tapa de una sartén, and bam! She says, Mother, I would really rather do it myself, if you don't mind. And of course the mother was hurt. Oh. And she was hurt because she wanted to help. And the daughter blew up, said, I'd really rather do it myself. And then the commercial continues, if you're stressed out, if you're tense and irritable, take these tranquilizers, okay, and then you feel good. And later, the mother and daughter made up and were talking. So, I'd really rather do it myself. Try to remember this expression. Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes after our next teacher to close up shop.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, everyone. I'm Natasha, your teacher, and today I'm here with a student who promised me he was going to study for for today. Let's see if he's done this. His name is David. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Did you study for today?
Yes, I did.
How many hours did you study?
Okay, I studied a couple of hours.
A couple, that's pretty good. What did you do to study?
Okay, I did my homework.
Okay.
I wrote some sentences and I
Good.
wrote a small story with a particular vocabulary.
Ah, very good. With the vocabulary we learned last class.
Yes,
Very
yeah, that's
good. So you see, you have to take note, okay? And study as much as he does, okay? All right, as you know, we're going to learn our 5 words of the day before we see the grammar point of the day, okay? The 5 words, as you know, have to be said out loud, okay? There's no point in you saying something in your head. You have to practice and you have to listen to my pronunciation and try to say it in a similar way, okay? So let's start. I'll say the word in Spanish and then you'll say it in English, okay? Let's start. First word, logística. How do you say this? Very good. Logistics. Logistics. One more time. Very good. Logistics. Okay, let's get David to say this word.
Logistics.
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 Very good. Now one more time.
Logistics.
Very good pronunciation. The next word is avergonzado. How do you say this? Very good. Ashamed. Ashamed. One more time. Very good. Ashamed. That's where the accent goes. Let's get David to say this one as well.
Ashamed.
And the accent goes on the second syllable.
Ashamed.
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 Very good. Ashamed.
Ashamed.
Very good. Ashamed. Very good. The next word is sangrar. How do you say this? Very good. To bleed. To bleed. One more time. Very good. Let's get David to say this to see if he can say it as well as you just did.
To bleed.
Very good. Perfect pronunciation. The next one is estar bajo juramento. How do you say this? Very good. To be under oath. To be under oath. One more time. Very good. Let's get David to say this one too.
To be under oath.
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 As if it were O-U.
Okay. To be under oath.
Oath.
To be under oath.
Very good. There you go, okay? Because even though it's O-A, you pronounce it as if it were O-U, okay? Oath, okay? And then the last one is avería, okay? How do you say this? Very good. Malfunction. Malfunction. Very good. Now let's see if David can say this last word as well.
Malfunction.
Very good. Malfunction. Okay, we've finished our vocabulary list. And now we have to do the grammar point of the day, which is a little bit tricky. Are you ready for the grammar point of the day?
I'm ready.
Do you know what the grammar point is?
No, I don't.
Ah, well, I'll tell people at home then,
Okay.
It's I'd rather, okay? I'd rather or I'd rather not, okay? Preferiría, okay? I'd rather not, okay? The exercise is going to work in the following way. I'm going to say something. I'm going to suggest something. For example, shall I open the window? And you have to say, I'd rather close it. And then you have to say another sentence saying, I'd rather not open it, okay? Sentence in the affirmative and a sentence in the negative. Are you ready? Let's see if David's ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you excited about this exercise?
I'm very excited.
Okay, the first one, okay? Shall we go? First one, affirmative.
Okay. I'd rather stay.
Very good. I'd rather stay. I'd rather stay, okay? And make sure you contract I'd. I would rather, I'd rather. So repeat at home. Very good. Okay, now let's get David to say the negative sentence.
I'd rather not go.
Very good. I'd rather not go. Okay, so the negative, the not, goes after. Okay, I'd rather not go. Okay, I'd rather stay. I'd rather not go. Okay, very good. The next one is for you at home. Let's see if you can get this right. Okay. Why don't you sell your car? Why don't you sell your car? Very good. So the first one in affirmative would be I'd rather keep it. I'd rather keep it. And in the negative? Very good. I'd rather not sell it. I'd rather not sell it. Very good. Okay, the next one is for David. Let's see if he gets this one right as well. Okay, you ready? Shall we make it up? What is to make it up? What is to make something up?
To invent?
Yeah, to make up a story is to invent, okay? So, shall we make it up? What do you think?
I'd rather read it.
Okay, I'd rather read it, for example. I'd rather study it, or I'd rather prepare it. Anything you want, that's the opposite. Now in the negative.
I'd rather not make it up.
Very good. I'd. And exaggerate that D sound.
Okay. I'd rather not make it up.
Very good. I'd rather not make it up. Okay, very good. Okay, the next one is for David as well, okay? Let's see how he does. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Shall we pick it up? Shall we pick it up?
I'd rather leave it.
Very good. Or I'd rather leave it there.
Okay. I'd rather leave it there.
Very good. And in the negative?
I'd rather not pick it up.
Very good. I'd rather not pick it up. Okay, he's doing very, very well. Are you doing just as well as he is? Because he's doing very well. Okay, the next one is for you at home. Are you ready? Okay. Why don't we lock the door? Why don't we lock the door? Let's ask David what lock is.
Cerrar con llave.
That's it. Okay, very good. Okay, he's my automatic translator. Okay. So why don't we lock the door? Very good. I'd rather open it, or I'd rather leave it open. I'd rather leave it open. Now in the negative? Very good. I'd rather not lock the door. I'd rather not lock the door. Very good. Okay, the next one is for David as well. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Why don't we substitute him? Why don't we substitute him?
I'd rather keep him.
Very good. I'd rather keep him. I'd rather keep him. Now in the negative?
I'd rather not to substitute him.
I'd rather not substitute. Never
Okay.
with two, okay? I'd rather not substitute him. Let's get David to say it again.
I'd rather not substitute him.
Very good. One more time.
I'd rather not substitute him.
Very good. He says it with a smile on his face. I say again, 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 and it doesn't matter. He's always smiling, okay? Now you at home, the next one. Shall we do it this way? Shall we do it this way? Very good. I'd rather do it another way. I'd rather do it another way. Now, I want you to say it in the negative. Very good. I'd rather not do it that way. I'd rather not do it that way. Okay, let's get David to say the last one, okay? You ready?
Ready.
Why don't we put off the meeting? What is to put off?
Posponer.
Yeah. Why don't we put off the meeting?
I'd rather do it today.
Okay, and then in the negative?
I'd rather not put off the meeting.
Very good. I'd rather not put it off. Okay, good job, and good job for you at home as well. I'll see you next time. Remember to study a lot, okay? Bye.
Okay, class 44 is finished. Class 45 for tomorrow. I have a question. Would you, I have 60,000 euros in my pocket. 60,000. I have 60,000 euros in my pocket. It's for you if you want it. I'll make a deal with you. English, to speak English well in any professional situation, or 60,000 euros. Which do you want? Would you rather have 60,000 euros now or to speak English well? Okay. Speaking English well, according to experts in human resources, is worth 700,000 euros. People who speak English well earn better salary over the 35 or 40 years of their career, equivalent to 700,000 additional euros. So it's worth it to learn English. See you tomorrow.